Jordan, a kind-hearted man from the quiet town of Mapleton, was known for his generosity and helpful spirit. One evening, on his way home from work, he noticed a woman by the side of the road struggling with a flat tire. Her name was Emily, a young woman clearly out of her element on the rural road. Without hesitation, Jordan pulled over to help her, easing her worry with his calm, friendly demeanor. He quickly fixed the tire, declining her offer of cash in gratitude, assuring her it was just part of who he was, helping others without expecting anything in return. The next morning, Jordan's life took an unexpected turn when a sleek black sub appeared parked outside his modest home. It didn't move, and no one stepped out. At first, Jordan shrugged it off as a coincidence, but as the hours passed, the mysterious vehicle remained. His usual calm began to waver, unease settling in his mind. The sub continued to follow Jordan for several days, keeping a cautious distance wherever he went. Finally, two men emerged from the vehicle, introducing themselves as representatives of the wealthy Montgomery family. They explained that Emily was a member of their family, and they were grateful for Jordan's assistance. Yet, their offer of thanks came with an unsettling proposal: resources and influence that could change his life if he accepted their gift. Jordan, torn between his simple, fulfilling life and the allure of a new opportunity, found himself questioning his values and the true cost of this offer. In the end, Jordan chose to accept on one condition: that the Montgomery support a community center in Mapleton. His small act of kindness sparked a journey that would transform not only his life but also the lives of everyone in his hometown. Jordan Smith, a 35-year-old maintenance technician, is a well-known figure in the peaceful town of Mapleton. With his friendly demeanor and strong sense of duty, he's someone the community deeply respects and relies on. Jordan's life is simple yet rewarding, centered around his job at the local community center, where he keeps things running smoothly and is always ready to lend a hand. Fixing leaky faucets, patching up walls, or setting up for town events, no task is too small for Jordan, and he approaches each with a smile and a calm patience that everyone appreciates. Living in a modest home on the town's outskirts, Jordan takes pride in a life that values hard work and connection over material wealth. He starts each morning with a quiet routine, coffee on his front porch, watching the sun rise over the trees. This moment of peace, where he can reflect before the busyness of the day begins, is one of the small joys that ground him. On his way to work, he stops by the local diner, where Ms. Lawson, the waitress, always has his breakfast ready: a plate of scrambled eggs and toast. Their friendly morning conversations are another comforting part of his routine, filled with the town's latest gossip and gentle banter. Mapleton is a place where everyone knows each other and neighbors watch out for one another. Jordan's commitment to the town and its people runs deep. He's not only a technician but a valued part of the community spirit that keeps Mapleton close-knit. People rely on him, not just for repairs, but for a warm, friendly face that reminds them that they're not alone. His co-workers admire him not only for his work ethic, but for his kindness, a quality that shines in every interaction he has. Jordan's simple life takes an unexpected turn one evening on his drive home. He encounters a woman stranded with a flat tire on a quiet road just outside of town. Her name is Emily, and she's visibly distressed, unsure of how to fix the problem. Without hesitation, Jordan stops to help, easily changing her tire while offering reassurance. Emily thanks him, and though she offers money, he kindly declines, explaining that he's simply glad to help. Unbeknownst to him, this small act of kindness will ripple through his life in ways he could never have foreseen, setting off a chain of events that will challenge his values and redefine his future. Every day, Jordan Smith starts his morning with a quiet ritual that brings him a sense of calm and purpose. Just before dawn, he brews a fresh cup of coffee and steps onto his porch, taking in the stillness of the morning as the sun begins to rise over the town of Mapleton. This peaceful moment, where he can watch the world awaken, has become a cherished part of his daily routine. After his coffee, Jordan heads into town, stopping at the local diner where he's a regular. There, Mez, Lawson, the warm-hearted waitress, greets him with a friendly smile and his usual breakfast: scrambled eggs, toast, and a side of light-hearted conversation. They chat about the latest happenings in Mapleton, from the weather to the latest town gossip, exchanging stories and sharing laughs. These simple interactions add a familiar rhythm to Jordan's mornings, grounding him in the community he values so deeply. Once at work, Jordan's days are filled with an assortment of tasks that might seem mundane to others, but are fulfilling to him. As a maintenance technician at the community center, he spends his time fixing broken doors, mending leaky faucets, and helping to set up for local events. Jordan's dedication and skill have earned him a reputation not just as a reliable handyman, but as someone who genuinely cares about Mapleton and its people. Beyond his technical abilities, it's his kindness and willingness to help others that truly make him stand out. Whenever someone needs an extra hand or a bit of support, Jordan is there, his easygoing nature and genuine concern for others making him a trusted figure in town. His co-workers and the townspeople admire him not only for his strong work ethic but for the warmth he brings to his work. Jordan's life is one of quiet satisfaction, rooted in a deep connection to his community. His steady presence and kindness are like a thread weaving through Mapleton, making him not just a maintenance worker, but an essential part of the town's spirit. It's a simple life, yet one filled with meaning, a life Jordan is proud to live each day. One quiet evening, as Jordan Smith was driving home along the familiar winding roads outside of Mapleton, he noticed a car pulled over to the side, hazard lights flashing in the fading light. Slowing down, he could see a woman standing by the vehicle, looking frustrated and a bit helpless. Jordan, ever the helpful soul, pulled over, recognizing that she was likely dealing with a breakdown. As he approached, he could see the flat tire and the woman's expression of relief when she saw him. The woman introduced herself as Emily, and it was clear she was completely out of her element. She explained that she had a flat tire but had no idea how to change it, despite her best attempts to figure it out. Tools lay scattered on the ground, evidence of her unsuccessful efforts. Jordan, with his usual friendly smile, reassured her, "No problem. I've got this. I've changed plenty of tires in my day." Rolling up his sleeves, he quickly assessed the situation and got to work. With practiced ease, Jordan lifted the car with the jack, removed the flat tire, and replaced it with the spare. As he worked, he chatted with Emily, helping her feel more at ease. In a few minutes, the job was done, and Emily's car was ready to go. Emily was visibly grateful, her initial frustration replaced by relief and appreciation. She thanked him profusely and, reaching into her purse, offered him some cash for his help. Jordan shook his head with a modest smile, raising his hand in a gesture of refusal. "No need for that," he said gently. "I'm just glad I could help. It's what any decent person would do." He explained that he didn't believe in helping people just for a reward. He did it simply because it was the right thing to do. Touched by his kindness, Emily thanked him again, expressing how much his help meant to her on that quiet road. Jordan waved as she drove off, feeling a sense of quiet satisfaction in having been able to lend a hand. To him, it was a simple act, one he had performed countless times before in his small town. As he continued his drive home, Jordan thought little of the incident, never imagining that this small act of kindness would be the beginning of something much larger, something that would soon ripple through his life in ways he could never have predicted. The following morning, Jordan Smith woke up just as he did every day, early, before the sun had fully risen. He made himself a cup of coffee and stepped onto his porch, savoring the tranquility that had become his morning ritual. But today, the peace was disrupted by something unusual. A sleek, black SUV parked across the street, facing his small, single-story house. At first, Jordan assumed it was a neighbor's visitor or maybe someone lost in the quiet neighborhood, taking a break before figuring out their route. But as he sipped his coffee, he couldn't shake a nagging feeling of curiosity. The vehicle was out of place in his sleepy town of Mapleton, where everyone knew everyone else's business. Nothing this unusual ever happened here. Shaking off the unease, he dismissed it as a minor distraction and moved on with his day, heading to work at the community center, where his time was filled with familiar tasks and friendly faces. But when he returned home that evening, he was startled to see the black SUV still there, parked in the same spot, its dark-tinted windows concealing any view of the interior. Jordan felt a slight unease crawl up his spine. The town was close-knit, and the sight of an unfamiliar vehicle lingering outside his home was unsettling. He looked around, hoping to catch a glimpse of the driver, but there was no sign of anyone nearby. With an uneasy shrug, he went inside, reminding himself not to overthink it. He convinced himself that it was probably nothing, someone's car, maybe broken down, waiting for help. However, the next morning, as he left for the diner where he grabbed breakfast each day, he saw the SUV again. It was parked just a bit further down the road, but its presence felt the same, watchful, almost ominous. As Jordan walked to his truck, he couldn't resist glancing over his shoulder at the vehicle. Was someone watching him? He scanned the windows, but they remained opaque, and he saw no sign of movement. It was unnerving, but he forced himself to brush it off. A few days passed, and the SUV seemed to follow him. No matter where he went in Mapleton, it would be nearby. At the diner, at work, even at the community center where he spent his days repairing things and setting up for town events, the vehicle would always be parked somewhere in sight, but never close enough for him to see who was inside. His unease grew with each passing day, and he could no longer dismiss it as mere coincidence. Finally, his curiosity reached its breaking point one afternoon after work. He decided he would confront the person, ask them directly what they were doing and why they were following him. That evening, as he returned home and saw the SUV parked once again across the street, he took a deep breath and walked over to it, determined to get answers. Before he could reach the driver's side, however, the window rolled down, revealing a middle-aged man in a dark suit and sunglasses. His expression was neutral, unreadable, but his gaze was piercing, the kind that seemed to assess everything with a single look. "Can I help you?" Jordan asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the unease creeping over him. The man's mouth curved slightly into a smile. "Good evening, Mr. Smith. We'd like a word with you, if you don't mind." "We," Jordan repeated, his brow furrowing. Just then the passenger door opened, and another man, younger and similarly dressed in a tailored suit, stepped out and approached him. "My name is Bennett," the younger man said, extending a hand in greeting, which Jordan hesitated to shake. "And this is my colleague Turner. We represent the Montgomery family." The mention of the Montgomery name struck Jordan with a sense of recognition. The Montgomerys were a wealthy, influential family, known in surrounding towns but not familiar to the residents of Mapleton, where modest lives and simple pleasures were the norm. "Montgomery family?" Jordan asked, crossing his arms. "What does a family like that want with me?" Bennett offered a small smile. "You recently helped someone important to the family, a young woman named Emily. She was stranded with a flat tire, and you offered your assistance without asking for anything in return." Jordan nodded slowly, piecing it together. "Emily was part of your family?" Turner, the older man, spoke up. "Yes, and she told us about your kindness, Mr. Smith. You went out of your way to help her in a moment of need, and the Montgomery family appreciates that." Jordan was baffled. He had never imagined his small act of kindness would attract this kind of attention. "I was just helping someone," he said simply. "I didn't expect any reward or whatever this is." Bennett's smile remained. "We understand, Mr. Smith. It's precisely because you didn't expect anything that we're here. He reached into his suit jacket and produced a sleek black card, offering it to Jordan. The family would like to extend their gratitude. This card grants you access to certain resources and opportunities that could significantly improve your life. Jordan took the card reluctantly, looking it over. The card was plain, with no logo or details other than a single phone number printed in elegant script. He slipped it into his pocket, feeling uneasy. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure what kind of resources you're talking about." Turner cleared his throat, his tone measured. "Financial resources, connections, influence. Things that can open doors you might not have even known existed. The Montgomery family is interested in your potential, Mr. Smith." Jordan frowned, feeling a sense of caution and resistance. "I live a simple life. I'm happy here in Mapleton. I don't need connections or influence." Bennett nodded, still calm but slightly insistent. "We respect that, Mr. Smith. But consider the possibilities. Imagine what you could do not just for yourself but for your community." The idea struck a chord in Jordan, albeit reluctantly. He cared deeply about Mapleton and its residents. The community center where he worked was constantly in need of funding, and the children and families who relied on its resources could certainly benefit from greater support. And yet, something about this felt off. "What's the catch?" Jordan asked, finally voicing his suspicion. Turner and Bennett exchanged a look, and Turner responded, "There is no catch, Mr. Smith. The family simply wants to repay your kindness." Jordan studied their faces, searching for any hint of deception, but both men maintained a practiced composure. After a long pause, he nodded slowly, making a decision. "If I accept, it'll be under one condition. I want the support to go toward building up the community center here in Mapleton. I want the resources to help my town, not just myself." Bennett's expression softened, and he nodded. "That's an admirable request, Mr. Smith. The Montgomery family would be pleased to assist with such a project. We'll make the necessary arrangements." With that, the two men returned to the SUV, leaving Jordan standing in the cool evening air, the black card still in his pocket. He watched as the SUV drove off, his mind racing with the implications of what had just happened. For years he had lived quietly, content with his modest life and small acts of service to his community. But now, a single decision had set him on a path he hadn't anticipated, a path that could change his life and the lives of those around him. In the days that followed, Jordan felt a sense of anticipation and apprehension as he watched the project take shape. The Montgomery family delivered on their promise, funding renovations for the community center and providing new resources for educational programs and community events. Mapleton began to buzz with excitement over the improvements, and Jordan found himself at the center of it all, a reluctant yet grateful leader in the transformation of his town. Despite the good the Montgomerys were doing, Jordan couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. Their intentions seemed genuine, but he was wary of any hidden motives. He often caught glimpses of the black SUV in the distance, as though they were keeping a watchful eye on him. One evening, Emily returned to Mapleton, seeking Jordan out at the newly renovated community center. She thanked him once again for his help and offered insight into her family's world, a world of power, influence, and sometimes dangerous alliances. She warned him gently, suggesting that while the Montgomerys' generosity was real, their reach came with complexities he might not fully grasp. In that moment, Jordan realized the magnitude of his decision. While he was grateful for the impact on Mapleton, he knew he would need to tread carefully in this newfound connection to the Montgomery family. For now, he remained committed to his community and the values he held dear, determined to use his unexpected opportunity for good while keeping his guard up. And as he looked out over the community he loved, Jordan couldn't help but wonder what the future held both for himself and for the quiet town that had become a beacon of hope thanks to his simple act of kindness. "Can I help you?" Jordan asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the unease creeping over him. The man's mouth curved slightly into a smile. "Good evening, Mr. Smith. We'd like a word with you if you don't mind." "We?" Jordan repeated, his brow furrowing. Just then the passenger door opened, and another man, younger and similarly dressed in a tailored suit, stepped out and approached him. "My name is Bennett," the younger man said, extending a hand in greeting, which Jordan hesitated to shake. "And this is my colleague, Turner. We represent the Montgomery family." The mention of the Montgomery name struck Jordan with a sense of recognition. The Montgomerys were a wealthy, influential family, known in surrounding towns, but not familiar to the residents of Mapleton, where modest lives and simple pleasures were the norm. "Montgomery family?" Jordan asked, crossing his arms. "What does a family like that want with me?" Bennett offered a small smile. "You recently helped someone important to the family, a young woman named Emily. She was stranded with a flat tire, and you offered your assistance without asking for anything in return." Jordan nodded slowly, piecing it together. "Emily was part of your family?" "Turner," the older man spoke up. "Yes, and she told us about your kindness, Mr. Smith. You went out of your way to help her in a moment of need, and the Montgomery family appreciates that." Jordan was baffled. He had never imagined his small act of kindness would attract this kind of attention. "I was just helping someone," he said simply. "I didn't expect any reward or whatever this is." Bennett's smile remained. "We understand, Mr. Smith. It's precisely because you didn't expect anything that we're here." He reached into his suit jacket and produced a sleek black card, offering it to Jordan. "The family would like to extend their gratitude. This card grants you access to certain resources and opportunities that could significantly improve your life." Jordan took the card reluctantly, looking it over. The card was plain, with no logo or details other than a single phone number printed in elegant script. He slipped it into his pocket, feeling uneasy. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure what kind of resources you're talking about." Turner cleared his throat, his tone measured. "Financial resources, connections, influence. Things that can open doors you might not have even known existed. The Montgomery family is interested in your potential, Mr. Smith." Jordan frowned, feeling a sense of caution and resistance. "I live a simple life. I'm happy here in Mapleton. I don't need connections or influence." Bennett nodded, still calm but slightly insistent. "We respect that, Mr. Smith. But consider the possibilities. Imagine what you could do not just for yourself, but for your community." The idea struck a chord in Jordan, albeit reluctantly. He cared deeply about Mapleton and its residents. The community center where he worked was constantly in need of funding, and the children and families who relied on its resources could certainly benefit from greater support. And yet, something about this felt off. "What's the catch?" Jordan asked, finally voicing his suspicion. Turner and Bennett exchanged a look, and Turner responded, "There is no catch, Mr. Smith. The family simply wants to repay your kindness." Jordan studied their faces, searching for any hint of deception, but both men maintained a practiced composure. After a long pause, he nodded slowly, making a decision. "If I accept, it'll be under one condition. I want the support to go toward building up the community center here in Mapleton. I want the resources to help my town, not just myself." Bennett's expression softened, and he nodded. "That's an admirable request, Mr. Smith. The Montgomery family would be pleased to assist with such a project. We'll make the necessary arrangements." With that, the two men returned to the SUV, leaving Jordan standing in the cool evening air, the black card still in his pocket. He watched as the SUV drove off, his mind racing with the implications of what had just happened. For years he had lived quietly, content with his modest life and small acts of service to his community. But now, a single decision had set him on a path he hadn't anticipated, a path that could change his life and the lives of those around him. In the days that followed, Jordan felt a sense of anticipation and apprehension as he watched the project take shape. The Montgomery family delivered on their promise, funding renovations for the community center and providing new resources for educational programs and community events. Mapleton began to buzz with excitement over the improvements, and Jordan found himself at the center of it all, a reluctant yet grateful leader in the transformation of his town. Despite the good the Montgomerys were doing, Jordan couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. Their intentions seemed genuine, but he was wary of any hidden motives. He often caught glimpses of the black sub in the distance, as though they were keeping a watchful eye on him. One evening, Emily returned to Mapleton, seeking Jordan out at the newly renovated community center. She thanked him once again for his help and offered insight into her family's world, a world of power, influence, and sometimes dangerous alliances. She warned him gently, suggesting that while the Montgomerys' generosity was real, their reach came with complexities he might not fully grasp. In that moment, Jordan realized the magnitude of his decision. While he was grateful for the impact on Mapleton, he knew he would need to tread carefully in this newfound connection to the Montgomery family. For now, he remained committed to his community and the values he held dear, determined to use his unexpected opportunity for good while keeping his guard up. And as he looked out over the community he loved, Jordan couldn't help but wonder what the future held both for himself and for the quiet town that had become a beacon of hope thanks to his simple act of kindness. Jordan shifted uncomfortably, not entirely trusting the compliment. Acts of kindness were common in Mapleton, where people watched out for each other without expecting anything in return. This attention from the Montgomery family felt out of proportion for a simple favor, and he wasn't sure he wanted to be recognized in this way. Bennett seemed to sense his reluctance and pulled a sleek black card from his pocket, extending it toward Jordan. As a gesture of our gratitude, the Montgomery family would like to offer you something in return, a token of appreciation for your help. Jordan took the card hesitantly, glancing at it. The card was unadorned, with only a phone number etched in silver script. "What's this?" he asked, looking back at Bennett. "It's a direct line to the family's resources," Bennett explained. "If there's anything you ever need, financial assistance, access to opportunities, connections, we want you to know that the Montgomerys are here for you. Consider it a way for us to repay the kindness you showed to Emily." Jordan's instinctive reaction was to refuse. He had always prided himself on his independence and his ability to provide for himself, even if it meant living simply. He didn't like the idea of accepting help from strangers, especially strangers with such wealth and influence. There was something about it that didn't sit right with him, as though there might be hidden strings attached. "I appreciate the offer," Jordan said slowly, "but I didn't help Emily expecting anything in return. It was just the right thing to do." Turner gave him a reassuring nod. "We understand, Mr. Smith, and that's precisely why we're making this offer. There are no obligations here, no expectations. It's entirely up to you whether you choose to use it or not." Jordan looked between the two men, studying their faces. They both seemed genuine, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this gesture than they were letting on. The Montgomerys weren't known for casual acts of generosity without some kind of underlying motive. They were powerful people, and powerful people rarely acted without intent. After a moment's thought, he slipped the card into his pocket. "I'll think about it," he said, keeping his tone neutral. Bennett smiled, as though satisfied. "That's all we ask. We won't take up any more of your time, Mr. Smith. Thank you again, and if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out." With that, Bennett and Turner returned to their SUV, leaving Jordan standing on his porch, the card still heavy in his pocket. He watched as the SUV pulled away, feeling a mixture of relief and apprehension. It was an odd encounter, one that left him with more questions than answers. As the days passed, Jordan tried to put the incident out of his mind, returning to his routine of work at the community center and evenings spent quietly at home. Yet the card weighed on him, a constant reminder of the choice he now faced. He thought about his town, about the people who relied on the community center for support and connection. The center was in constant need of funding, and Jordan knew that with the Montgomery's resources, he could make a real difference in Mapleton. After much deliberation, he finally made a decision. One evening, he took the black card out of his pocket and dialed the number. The line connected almost immediately, and a smooth, professional voice on the other end greeted him. "Mr. Smith, this is Bennett. How can I assist you?" Jordan took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about your offer, and I have a proposal. If the Montgomery family is willing, I'd like to request funding for the Mapleton Community Center. We're always in need of resources, and I believe it would make a positive impact on the town." There was a brief pause before Bennett replied, his tone approving. "That's a commendable request, Mr. Smith. I'll discuss it with the family, but I'm confident they'll be more than happy to support such an initiative." True to Bennett's word, the Montgomerys came through. Within weeks, the community center received a generous donation, allowing for renovations, new equipment, and additional programs for local families. Appleton buzzed with excitement over the improvements, and Jordan found himself at the center of it all, a reluctant hero in the transformation of his hometown. The sense of pride and satisfaction he felt was tempered by a lingering unease, however. The Montgomerys had provided everything he'd asked for, but he couldn't shake the feeling that their generosity might come with unseen obligations. And as grateful as he was for the impact their support had made, he remained wary, watching for any signs that there might be strings attached. One day, as he was overseeing a new program at the center, he was approached by Emily, the young woman he had helped on the roadside. She had come to thank him again and to offer insight into her family's world, a world of power, influence, and dangerous alliances. Emily shared stories of the pressures and expectations that came with the Montgomery name, warning him gently that while her family's generosity was genuine, their reach and resources often came at a price. "I don't want to discourage you, Jordan," Emily said, her expression earnest, "but I thought you should know. My family doesn't do anything lightly. If they've invested in Mapleton, it's likely because they see potential here." Jordan listened carefully, his wariness growing. He had always lived simply, valuing his independence and his quiet life in Mapleton. The Montgomerys' involvement was making a positive difference, but he knew he would need to tread carefully. As the months passed, the community center continued to thrive, becoming a hub of support and opportunity for Mapleton's residents. The scholarship program funded by the Montgomerys allowed local students to pursue higher education, and new resources were provided for job training and after-school activities. Jordan watched the center flourish, grateful for the opportunities it was bringing to his town. But his relationship with the Montgomery family remained complex. He was aware that they were watching him closely, monitoring the progress of the center and its impact on Mapleton. Occasionally, he would catch sight of the black SUV in town, a silent reminder of the powerful allies he had gained and the potential consequences of their involvement. Despite the uncertainty, Jordan remained committed to his vision for Mapleton. He continued to use the Montgomery's support to improve the community center, expanding its programs and services to reach as many people as possible. Yet he was careful to maintain his own values and principles, refusing to let the Montgomerys dictate the direction of the center's growth. One evening, as he was closing up the center, he was approached by Bennett once again. The man's demeanor was as composed as ever, but there was a hint of something more, a subtle shift in his tone, a glint of expectation in his gaze. "Mr. Smith," Bennett began, his voice polite but firm. "The Montgomery family is pleased with the work you've done here in Mapleton. They see potential in you and in the impact you've had on the community. They'd like to extend an invitation for you to take on a more prominent role in their philanthropic efforts, perhaps even on a regional level." Jordan felt a surge of conflicting emotions. The offer was tempting. After the surprising encounter with Bennett and Turner, representatives of the wealthy Montgomery family, Jordan Smith found himself in an unusual state of mind. Used to a simple, quiet life in the town of Mapleton, he had always kept his aspirations modest. He enjoyed his daily routines, his role at the community center, and his steady friendships in the close-knit community. But now, as he sat alone on his porch in the cool evening air, looking out at the sleepy town, he couldn't help but feel a sense of weight pressing on him, a feeling of being at a crossroads. The Montgomerys' offer had been generous, almost excessively so, leaving him with resources that had already begun transforming the community center in ways he had only dreamed of. New equipment, better facilities, and expanded programs were suddenly within reach, and the people of Mapleton were already buzzing with excitement. It was everything he'd hoped for the town. But it was also more than he'd anticipated, a gift that carried with it a sense of responsibility and perhaps, even more, a feeling of entanglement with a world he'd never intended to join. Jordan's friends noticed his distracted demeanor over the next few days, picking up on his unusually quiet nature. He was someone they relied on for a steady presence and easygoing attitude, always quick to help and quicker still with a warm smile. But now he seemed almost withdrawn, lost in his own thoughts, and they knew something was weighing on him. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jordan found himself at his friend Greg's small, cozy home. Greg, a lifelong friend and fellow Mapleton local, was someone Jordan trusted implicitly. Over a beer on Greg's back porch, Jordan decided to open up about what had been on his mind. "So, the Montgomerys," Jordan began, swirling his beer and hesitating slightly. "They've offered me something big." Greg raised an eyebrow, his interest clearly piqued. "Big, huh? How big we talking?" Jordan sighed, struggling to put his thoughts into words. "It's not just about the money they've given to the community center. They're offering me access to more connections, more influence resources I could never have on my own. They want me to be involved in a larger capacity, even beyond Mapleton." Greg gave a slow nod, considering this. "And that's making you uneasy?" "Yeah," Jordan admitted, taking a sip of his drink. "I mean, I never wanted anything beyond this town, you know. I'm happy here. I've built a life I'm proud of, simple as it is. And now it feels like I'm being pulled into something that could change everything." Greg leaned back, folding his arms thoughtfully. "Well, let's think about it. What's really bothering you here, Jordan? Is it the idea of stepping outside of Mapleton? Or is it the fact that it's the Montgomerys asking you to do it?" Jordan paused, realizing Greg had hit on something. "It's a little of both, I guess. The Montgomerys are powerful. I feel like I'm getting tangled up with people who have their own agenda, and that worries me. But even without them, I'm not sure I want this kind of influence. I like my life as it is. I like being someone people can rely on without expecting anything back. What if I lose that?" Greg smiled, a reassuring expression that was both understanding and wise. "You know, Jordan, power doesn't have to change you. It can reveal more of who you already are. The Montgomerys might have their own reasons for getting involved here, but that doesn't mean you can't stay true to who you are while using their resources for good. Just because they've got money and influence doesn't mean they own you." Jordan let Greg's words sink in. There was wisdom in his friend's advice, a reminder that his values didn't have to be sacrificed, even if he accepted the Montgomerys' support. But there was still a hesitation in him, a reluctance to step into something he didn't fully understand. The next day, Jordan met with another close friend, Angela, a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for blunt honesty. They sat together at the local diner, the familiar clatter of dishes and the murmur of friendly chatter surrounding them. Angela wasted no time in getting to the heart of the matter. "So, Jordan, I heard you've got the Montgomerys investing in our little town. You're the talk of Mapleton these days." Jordan chuckled, feeling slightly embarrassed. "I didn't really ask for the attention. It just happened." "Sure, but you let it happen," Angela replied, raising an eyebrow. "So what's got you all knotted up?" Jordan sighed, feeling the weight of his dilemma again. It's this feeling that things are going to change. They've already given so much to the community center, and now they're asking me to take a more active role. Bigger projects, more connections, it's everything I'd want for Mapleton. But it's not what I planned for myself. I just worry that getting mixed up with them will come at a cost.
Captain Bennett nodded, clearly affected by his words. She had been in law enforcement long enough to understand the systemic problems within her department, but hearing it from someone in Marcus's position, a black man, and an FBI agent brought a fresh urgency to the issue. She turned back to Harkins, her gaze intense. "Officer Harkins, as police officers, we're given power and authority, but it's our duty to use that power responsibly and without prejudice. You didn't just misjudge a situation today, you let your biases guide your actions, and that's unacceptable." Harkins' face flushed with embarrassment. He opened his mouth to argue, but something in Bennett's expression silenced him. He knew she was right, and as he looked at Marcus, he saw a reflection of his own flawed assumptions staring back at him. Captain Bennett sighed and softened her tone slightly. "Officer, I understand that instincts are a part of this job, but instincts must be tempered with fairness, with an understanding of what justice truly means. We cannot afford to operate on assumptions based on a person's appearance or background. That approach undermines our work, and it damages the community's trust in us." Marcus nodded, appreciating her words. "Captain, it's not just about this one incident," he said. "This is about creating an environment where officers are trained to see individuals for who they are, not as potential threats simply because of their appearance. If Officer Harkins had approached me with an open mind, I would have had no issue providing my ID or answering his questions. But the moment he looked at me, I saw judgment, and that changes everything." Harkins, visibly uncomfortable, looked down, processing the weight of Marcus's words. He felt the sting of disappointment in himself, realizing that his actions could have led to even graver consequences. The authority he held had felt secure, unquestionable, but now he understood the responsibility that came with it, a responsibility he had momentarily forgotten.
One evening, Jordan was surprised by an unexpected visitor, Emily, the young woman he had helped with a flat tire weeks earlier. The same encounter that had sparked his connection with the powerful Montgomery family. She looked different now, tired, cautious, and visibly wary as she approached him. Her usual polished appearance had given way to a simpler look, almost as if she were trying to blend in. Jordan could tell something was weighing heavily on her. "Jordan," Emily began, her voice low and hesitant, "I'm sorry to show up like this out of the blue, but I needed to talk to you." "Of course," Jordan replied, motioning for her to sit on the porch. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" Emily took a deep breath, as if gathering her thoughts. "There's something I didn't tell you before," she confessed, her tone serious. "When you helped me that day with the flat tire, I wasn't just passing through. I was actually trying to get away from my family." Jordan's eyes widened in surprise, and he studied her expression carefully. "Get away? From the Montgomerys?" She nodded, a hint of vulnerability in her gaze. "Yes, my family, they're powerful, and with that power comes a lot of expectations, a lot of control. I know it probably looks glamorous from the outside, but being a Montgomery isn't just about wealth or influence. There's a side to it that's, well, complicated and sometimes dangerous." Jordan listened intently as she continued, feeling the weight of her words. I grew up in that world, but I've always felt trapped by it. My family has a certain way of doing things, and everyone is expected to fall in line. I wanted out, at least for a while. That day you found me, I was trying to break away, to find my own path, even if just for a little bit. Emily's expression softened as she looked at Jordan. When I told my family about you, about how you helped me without asking for anything in return, they couldn't understand it. To them, everything has a cost, a purpose, a benefit. But she paused, shaking her head in admiration. You're different. You live by your own values, and I wanted to thank you for that. Jordan felt a mixture of empathy and curiosity. He could only imagine the pressure she must have faced, coming from a family where every action was tied to influence and control. Emily, he said gently, I appreciate you telling me this. But why now? Emily hesitated, her gaze intense. Because I want you to know that the Montgomery's world isn't for everyone. They're good at making people feel indebted, at drawing people into their sphere of influence, often without them even realizing it. I've seen it happen countless times, and I wanted to warn you. You're a good person, Jordan, and I don't want to see you caught up in something that might compromise who you are. Jordan took a deep breath, considering her words. He had already felt that lingering unease, that sense of obligation ever since Bennett and Turner had approached him. And now, hearing Emily's perspective, he realized his instincts had been right to be cautious. She continued, Promise me one thing, Jordan. Whatever decisions you make, do it for yourself. I don't let my family or anyone else control you. You've got something special, a sense of integrity and kindness that's rare. Hold on to that. Jordan nodded, deeply moved by her words. Thank you, Emily. I'll keep that in mind. And if you ever need help finding your own way, you know where to find me. Emily offered him a grateful smile, a hint of relief visible in her eyes. I might just take you up on that, she said softly. I don't know what's next for me, but knowing people like you are out there gives me hope. As Emily left, Jordan stood on his porch, watching her disappear into the night. Her words resonated with him, and he felt a renewed sense of clarity. He would continue to help his community, using the resources available to him, but he would do it on his terms, staying true to his values. Jordan Smith stood at a crossroads in his life, facing the decision that could shape his future in ways he hadn't anticipated. For years, he'd been content with his quiet, unassuming life in Mapleton, a small town where he knew every face and every story. As the community center's maintenance technician, he was a constant figure of support, always there to lend a hand, whether it was fixing a leaky faucet or helping to organize town events. It wasn't a glamorous life, but it was one he cherished, defined by simplicity, purpose, and a deep connection to the people around him. But now, everything had changed. The Montgomery family, a name synonymous with wealth, influence, and power, had entered his world after he'd helped Emily, one of their own, with a flat tire. What he'd thought was a small act of kindness had rippled through his life, drawing the Montgomerys' attention. In gratitude, they had made an offer, access to resources and connections that could elevate his life and give him the means to transform Mapleton in ways he could only dream of. With their backing, he could expand the community center, fund scholarships, and bring programs to the town that would enrich the lives of its residents. The offer was enticing. Jordan had always wanted to do more for Mapleton, and here was a chance to make that a reality. The Montgomerys' support could mean a brighter future for the town he loved. But there was also a catch, one that lingered in the back of his mind, no matter how much he tried to ignore it. The Montgomerys, as powerful as they were generous, did not give without expectations. Their world was one of transactions, influence, and control, and Jordan wasn't sure he wanted to be beholden to them. He feared that accepting their offer might lead him down a path where he'd lose sight of who he was and what he valued. One evening, as he sat alone on his porch, Jordan found himself weighing the decision heavily. The quiet sounds of Mapleton surrounded him, the rustling of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, the soft glow of porch lights from neighboring houses. He thought about the life he'd built, the relationships he'd formed, and the joy he found in the simple routines of his day. Did he really want to risk losing all of this for the chance at something bigger, something that might come at a cost he couldn't foresee? To clear his head, he reached out to his friends, people who knew him well and understood the life he cherished. They had always been his sounding board, and he trusted them to give him honest advice. Over the next few days, he met with them, sharing his thoughts, his fears, and the sense of responsibility he felt toward Mapleton. His friend Greg was the first to offer his perspective. They sat together in Greg's living room, the comfortable, familiar space easing some of Jordan's tension. Greg, a lifelong resident of Mapleton himself, listened carefully, nodding as Jordan explained the Montgomerys' offer and his reservations. "Jordan, I get why you're hesitant," Greg said, his tone thoughtful. "Powerful people like the Montgomerys, well, they tend to play by their own rules. But here's the thing. You've always been someone who stands by his principles. I don't think accepting their help would change that. If anything, it might give you the chance to do more good, but on your terms. Just because they're involved doesn't mean they own you." Jordan considered this, appreciating Greg's faith in his integrity. He'd always prided himself on staying true to his values, but he still worried about the weight of the Montgomerys' influence. Later that week, he met with Angela, a friend known for her candid honesty. They met at the diner, where the comforting sounds of clinking dishes and friendly conversation surrounded them. Angela wasted no time getting to the heart of the matter. "Jordan, if you don't want this, walk away," she said bluntly. "But if you're holding back because you're afraid of losing yourself, think again. The Montgomerys can offer resources, sure, but they can't take away who you are unless you let them. Mapleton needs someone like you, someone who genuinely cares and isn't just in it for the power. If you go through with this, do it on your own terms and don't let them push you around." Angela's words resonated with him. She was right. If he chose this path, he could set boundaries and define what he was willing to accept. He could ensure that whatever he did was for Mapleton and its people, not for the Montgomerys' agenda. Finally, one evening he sat down with Aunt Clara, an elderly woman who had been like family to him. They had a quiet conversation in her cozy kitchen, the warmth of her presence calming his doubts. She listened as he shared his worries, her wise eyes never leaving his. "Jordan," she said softly, "you've always known who you are and what you stand for. I don't lose sight of that. The Montgomerys may have their own goals, but you have yours. Use their offer as a tool, nothing more. Let it serve your purpose, not theirs. Mapleton could benefit from this, but only if you remember why you started." With his friend's advice in mind, Jordan felt a renewed clarity. They reminded him of his core values, of the strength he'd drawn from living an honest life grounded in kindness and community. He realized he didn't have to abandon his way of life to make a difference. Instead, he could choose to accept the Montgomerys' offer on his own terms, remaining true to himself and the community he loved. After a long night of reflection, Jordan made his decision. He would reach out to the Montgomerys and accept their support, but only with clear boundaries. He would use their resources to expand the community center, fund programs, and provide scholarships, but he would ensure that every step he took aligned with his principles. He would not be swayed by promises of influence or power, nor would he allow himself to become a pawn in their world. The next morning, Jordan contacted Bennett, the Montgomerys' representative, and shared his decision. Bennett seemed pleased, though slightly surprised at Jordan's conditions. Nevertheless, he agreed, assuring Jordan that the family respected his vision. In the months that followed, Jordan watched as his vision for Mapleton began to take shape. The community center blossomed, its programs expanding to offer support and opportunities to people of all ages. The townspeople rallied behind him, grateful for the positive changes, and Jordan found himself more connected to his community than ever before. Though the Montgomerys' presence loomed in the background, Jordan stayed true to his word, navigating their support carefully and ensuring that every decision he made was for Mapleton's benefit. His life remained simple, but now it was enriched by the impact he was able to make, a reminder that true strength lay not in the resources at his disposal, but in his commitment to the values that had guided him all along. With a clear vision and a heart set on helping his community, Jordan Smith decided to take the Montgomery family's offer and propose something he'd long dreamed about: a plan to transform Mapleton into a town where everyone had access to support and opportunity. Instead of using the family's resources for personal gain, Jordan envisioned building a new, fully equipped community center and establishing a scholarship fund to help local students pursue higher education. When he met with Bennett and Turner, the Montgomery family representatives, he expressed his idea with genuine enthusiasm. Mapleton is a small town, but it has so much potential. With your support, we could create something that changes lives here, a place where kids can go after school, where families can access resources, and where people of all ages feel empowered to learn and grow. Bennett looked intrigued, listening intently as Jordan spoke. "It sounds ambitious, Jordan," he admitted, "but it's also exactly the type of initiative the Montgomery family values." Jordan felt a flicker of relief and excitement as Bennett nodded in approval. Turner, the other representative, glanced at Jordan with a thoughtful expression. "This kind of investment isn't common in towns like Mapleton," he remarked. "Why here? Why not expand your vision to a larger community?" Jordan smiled, feeling the depth of his commitment to Mapleton resonate within him. "This town has given me everything I needed: a sense of purpose, a close-knit community, and a place to call home. If I can bring that same feeling to others, even just a little, I'll have done something meaningful." It's not about going big, it's about going deep and making an impact where it matters most. With that, the Montgomery family agreed to his proposal, impressed by his dedication and sincerity. They provided a substantial donation, funding not only the construction of a state-of-the-art community center, but also the creation of a scholarship fund. Jordan wasted no time in getting to work. He poured his energy into overseeing the project, ensuring that every detail was carefully planned to benefit Mapleton's residents. The new community center was designed to be more than just a building. It was meant to be a place where people could come together, learn, and feel a sense of belonging. As construction began, Jordan worked closely with local architects and volunteers to bring the vision to life. He wanted the center to reflect the values that Mapleton held dear: simplicity, warmth, and a commitment to helping each other. Months passed, and slowly but surely, the center began to take shape. People in town grew curious and excited as they watched the building rise. Jordan would often see townspeople gathered near the construction site, discussing the changes with hopeful smiles and a sense of anticipation. The day finally came when the community center was completed. A grand opening ceremony was held, and nearly the entire town turned out to celebrate. Jordan stood at the front of the crowd, feeling a mixture of pride and humility as he looked at the center, a symbol of unity, resilience, and opportunity. He gave a short speech, expressing his gratitude to the Montgomery family for their support, and to the people of Mapleton for believing in the vision. "This center isn't about me or even about the Montgomerys," he said, his voice steady. "It's about us, about Mapleton and the incredible spirit of this community. My hope is that this place will be a resource, a refuge, and a space where people can come together to support each other." As the doors opened, families, children, and elderly residents all poured in, exploring the different rooms and facilities with excitement. The community center offered classrooms for tutoring, spaces for workshops and events, a library, and a large, inviting lounge where people could relax, read, or socialize. The center's walls were adorned with photographs of Mapleton's history and artwork contributed by local residents, making it feel like a true reflection of the town's character. One of the most cherished parts of the center quickly became the after-school program. Local kids, who previously had few options for extracurricular activities, now had a safe, supportive place to spend their afternoons. Volunteers from Mapleton and neighboring towns offered classes in subjects ranging from art and music to computer skills and sports. The Scholarship Fund was also launched with a ceremony, awarding grants to students who showed promise and commitment to bettering their community. In the following weeks, Jordan noticed the impact of the community center almost immediately. Parents thanked him for creating a space where their children could learn and grow, free from the pressures and dangers often found outside of school. Young adults approached him, expressing gratitude for the scholarship opportunities that now made their dreams of higher education a reality. Seniors found purpose in volunteering, mentoring young people, and sharing stories of Mapleton's past. One day, Jordan watched as a group of children played basketball on the court outside, their laughter and energy filling the air. Nearby, a group of teenagers was working on a woodworking project, mentored by an older volunteer who shared his craft skills with them. Inside, local teachers led workshops on job skills from resume writing to interview preparation, empowering residents with tools for success. The Scholarship Fund became a lifeline for many students who aspired to attend college but lacked the means. Applications flooded in, and Jordan and a small committee of town leaders reviewed each one carefully. They looked beyond academic records, seeking applicants who showed a genuine desire to give back to Mapleton. It wasn't long before students who had received scholarships began attending universities and community colleges, returning during breaks to share their experiences and inspire others. As word spread, the community center attracted visitors from neighboring towns, eager to see the changes that had taken place in Mapleton. Journalists and social workers alike visited to learn more about how such a small town had transformed into a model of community support and education. Jordan became somewhat of a local hero, although he always deflected praise, insisting that the center's success was due to the hard work of the people and the community's spirit. Throughout it all, Jordan remained grounded, never losing sight of why he had started this journey. His friends and family were his anchors, reminding him of the values that had guided him from the beginning. Whenever he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, he would spend time at the community center, talking with the kids, helping with repairs, or simply listening to the stories of those who came through its doors. Each interaction reaffirmed his commitment to Mapleton and reminded him that the center's purpose was to uplift, inspire, and connect. The Montgomerys continued to support his efforts but kept a respectful distance, allowing Jordan to run the center on his own terms. Bennett and Turner visited occasionally, checking in and offering resources when needed, but they were careful not to interfere with Jordan's leadership. Jordan was grateful for their backing but knew that it was the people of Mapleton who made the center what it was. Their dedication, resilience, and willingness to help each other were the true foundation of its success. Months turned into years, and the community center became an integral part of Mapleton's identity. It hosted annual festivals, community meetings, and celebrations, becoming a place where milestones were marked and memories were made. The Scholarship Fund expanded, helping more students each year, and the programs continued to evolve, reflecting the changing needs of the town. Jordan watched as generations grew up with the community center as a constant presence in their lives, a reminder of what could be accomplished when people came together for a common purpose. In quiet moments, Jordan would sit in the center's lounge, looking out at the bustling activity around him. He reflected on the journey that had brought him here, from the simple act of helping a stranger on the roadside to the decision that had reshaped his life and his town. He realized that the Montgomery's resources had provided the foundation, but it was the heart of Mapleton that had built the center into a true beacon of hope. And in the end, Jordan understood that while his life had grown beyond the simplicity he once cherished, he had remained true to himself and to the people he cared about. The community center stood as a testament to what he valued most: kindness, integrity, and the power of community. Through every challenge and every triumph, he had created something lasting, a legacy of support, opportunity, and unity that would carry on long after he was gone. As the Mapleton Community Center blossomed into a hub of activity and support, Jordan Smith could feel the impact of his efforts radiating through the town. The center was filled each day with people from all walks of life: children attending after-school programs, adults seeking job training, seniors volunteering their time, and local artists hosting workshops. The scholarship fund allowed many students to pursue higher education, and the community's spirit of collaboration had never been stronger. It seemed that Mapleton was thriving in a way it never had before, thanks to the resources and support he'd helped secure from the Montgomery family. However, not everyone saw the center's growth as a positive change. As the center continued to gain popularity and recognition, it inevitably drew attention from local politicians and business owners who felt threatened by Jordan's influence in the community. Some saw his success as a challenge to the status quo, fearing that the empowerment of Mapleton's residents through education and opportunity might shift the town's power dynamics. Soon, Jordan found himself facing unexpected challenges. A few town officials who had previously shown lukewarm support for the center began expressing concerns about its operations, claiming that it wasn't fully transparent and questioning the source of its funding. Rumors started circulating that the community center was a front for hidden agendas, implying that Jordan's ties to the Montgomery family were suspicious or even manipulative. It was a disheartening turn of events, especially considering all the hard work Jordan and his team had poured into making the center a welcoming, positive space for everyone. At first, Jordan was stunned. He'd always been transparent about his intentions and had gone out of his way to ensure that every aspect of the center's funding and programs was open to the public. To him, the center was a labor of love and dedication to Mapleton. The accusations felt not only unjust but deeply personal. But as the rumors persisted, he realized that this wasn't just an isolated grumble, it was a coordinated effort by certain individuals who felt threatened by the change the center represented. The smear campaign intensified, with whispers that Jordan had sold out to the wealthy Montgomerys, that he was only in it for personal gain, or that the center was being used to push hidden political agendas. These allegations painted a picture of him that was far from the truth, turning what should have been a celebration of Mapleton's growth into a storm of controversy. Determined not to let these rumors undo the progress he'd made, Jordan turned to his friends and the community for support. His close friends and the people who had worked with him at the center reassured him that they knew his heart and his intentions. They urged him not to lose hope, even as the negativity spread. Their loyalty reminded him that he wasn't alone in this fight, and that the community he'd built would stand by him. He also took a step back to consider the motives of those leading the campaign against him. It became clear that certain business owners and political figures felt their influence was slipping as the community center's popularity grew. For years, these individuals had shaped Mapleton's direction and felt uneasy seeing power shift to a grassroots effort that was out of their control. Jordan recognized that this was less about him personally and more about fear of change, fear of losing power, and fear of the community's empowerment. Deciding to face the challenge head-on, Jordan made a public statement at a town meeting. Standing in front of his neighbors, he spoke candidly about the values that had driven him to create the community center and his commitment to Mapleton's welfare. "I know there have been concerns and rumors about the center," he began, looking directly at the townspeople he had come to know so well. "But I want to assure you that everything we're doing here is for the benefit of Mapleton. This center exists because of the generosity of people who believe in this town's potential, and because of the hard work of everyone here who has put in their time and effort to make it a reality." He went on to clarify the center's funding sources, offering complete transparency and inviting anyone interested to review the center's financial records. His words were calm but firm, filled with a conviction that resonated with the people in attendance. Jordan emphasized that the center belonged to the town, and that its purpose was to serve the community, not to push any outside agenda. After the meeting, a number of townspeople approached him, offering words of encouragement and pledging their support. The trust and respect they showed him that day were a reminder that, no matter the opposition, Mapleton was behind him. The positive response from his neighbors helped strengthen his resolve to push through the adversity and continue focusing on the work that mattered. In the following weeks, he implemented additional transparency initiatives, creating monthly reports on the center's progress and holding regular town hall meetings where residents could voice their questions or concerns. By opening the center's operations to the public, he was able to dispel many of the rumors that had been circulating and give the community a first-hand look at the positive impact the center was having. Still, the smear campaign didn't vanish entirely. A few vocal detractors continued to raise doubts, stirring up criticism whenever they could. Jordan learned to navigate these obstacles with patience, reminding himself that the negativity came from a place of resistance to change. He refused to engage in heated confrontations or respond with anger. Instead, he continued to lead by example, focusing on the center's mission and letting his actions speak louder than the accusations. Throughout this challenging period, he leaned heavily on the support of his friends, who were always there to lift his spirits. His friend Greg often reminded him, "You can't please everyone, Jordan, but you can stay true to yourself and keep doing good work. The people who matter see that, and they'll stand by you." Angela, always blunt yet wise, gave him advice that stuck with him. "Remember, Jordan, integrity isn't about making everyone happy. It's about staying true to what you believe in, even when it's not easy." Buoyed by their encouragement, Jordan continued his work at the community center with renewed focus. Over time, he noticed that the positive results of the center's programs began to speak for themselves. As children gained new skills, as students went off to college, and as adults found stable jobs thanks to the center's resources, the community could see firsthand the benefits of the work being done. Slowly, the voices of dissent grew quieter, drowned out by the success stories coming out of the center. Residents who had initially been skeptical started to come around, acknowledging the undeniable impact the center was having. Even some of the political figures and business owners who had felt threatened by the changes began to see the center as an asset to the town. Jordan's dedication had transformed the center into a beacon of support and growth, a place that brought people together and gave them hope. The challenges he'd faced only reinforced his commitment to Mapleton, deepening his bond with the town and reminding him of the resilience and integrity he carried within him. Looking back, Jordan realized that the hardships he'd encountered had only strengthened his purpose. He had faced criticism, doubt, and opposition, but he had navigated it all with patience, transparency, and an unwavering focus on the well-being of his community. The experience had taught him that true leadership wasn't about avoiding conflict, but about handling it with grace and using it as an opportunity to reinforce one's principles. In the end, the community center became more than just a place of education and support. It became a testament to the power of resilience and integrity. Jordan's journey had proven that even in the face of adversity, a vision built on genuine care and commitment could not be easily undermined. As Mapleton continued to flourish, Jordan looked around the center, now filled with people who had found a sense of purpose and belonging within its walls. He felt a profound sense of gratitude, not only for the support of his friends and community, but for the challenges that had allowed him to grow stronger and more focused. And as he watched the people of Mapleton gather for another town event at the center, Jordan knew he had done the right thing, staying true to his values and creating something that would outlast any rumor, opposition, or challenge a lasting legacy of hope and unity. 5 years had passed since Jordan Smith's life took an unexpected turn, all sparked by a simple act of kindness on a quiet road in Mapleton. As he stood at the front of the Mapleton Community Center, now bustling with energy for the annual Fall Festival, he looked out at the crowd and felt a deep sense of gratitude. Children laughed as they played games, parents chatted, local artists displayed their work, and community members shared food and laughter. It was a celebration of the town's growth, unity, and resilience, a testament to how far they had come. The community center itself had become the heart of Mapleton, far more than Jordan had ever imagined. What had started as a modest idea to offer a safe space and support for his town had grown into a vibrant, multi-purpose hub of opportunity. Mapleton's residents had embraced the center wholeheartedly, bringing their skills, talents, and ideas to help it flourish. The scholarship fund was now sponsoring dozens of students, and the after-school and adult education programs had grown to meet the diverse needs of the town. Local businesses contributed regularly, recognizing the value the center brought to Mapleton. And for Jordan, this was more than he could have dreamed of. As he watched the festival unfold, Jordan's mind drifted back to that pivotal moment 5 years earlier. He'd been driving home on a quiet evening when he noticed a car pulled over, its hazard lights blinking. Emily, a young woman from a powerful family, had been stranded on the roadside, frustrated and overwhelmed. Without a second thought, he'd stopped to help her, fixing her flat tire and sending her on her way, expecting nothing in return. But what had seemed like an ordinary gesture of kindness had become the start of a journey that would redefine his life and his community. When Emily's family, the Montgomerys, approached him with gratitude and an offer of support, he'd found himself facing a difficult decision. The Montgomerys' world was one of wealth and influence, far removed from the simple, fulfilling life he'd built in Mapleton. He'd wrestled with the idea of accepting their help, knowing that such power often came with strings attached. Yet, his dream of giving back to Mapleton, of creating something that would uplift the community, had ultimately driven him to take the chance. Standing on the center's main stage now, Jordan could see the result of that decision everywhere he looked. The community center had become a pillar of support and inspiration for people of all ages, a place where lives were transformed daily. And it all traced back to that one small act of kindness on the roadside, a moment that had unknowingly set the foundation for everything that followed. As the festival continued, someone in the crowd called out, "Jordan, give us a speech." The townspeople around him cheered, smiling at him expectantly, and Jordan laughed, a little embarrassed but willing to oblige. He stepped up to the microphone, taking in the familiar faces before him. Many of these people had supported him through the challenges, believed in his vision, and stood by him as he navigated the complexities of bringing his dream to life. He cleared his throat, gathering his thoughts as he looked out over the crowd. "Thank you, everyone," he began, his voice filled with warmth. "It's hard to put into words what this community center means to me. When I first had the idea, it was just a vision, a hope, really, that Mapleton could have a place where people could come together, learn, and support each other. But looking around, I realize it's become so much more than I ever imagined." He paused, his gaze drifting over the faces of friends, families, and neighbors who had come to mean so much to him. "You know," He continued, "It's strange to think that all of this started because I stopped to help someone on the side of the road. I didn't think twice about it at the time, but that one small act of kindness led to a journey that changed my life in ways I could never have predicted." A ripple of nods and understanding murmurs passed through the crowd. Many people here knew his story, knew how he had poured himself into making the center a reality, and how he had faced numerous obstacles along the way. "Over the years, I've learned something important," Jordan said, his voice growing more thoughtful. "True change doesn't come from money or influence. It comes from people who care for each of you. This center exists because all of you believed in what it could be, because you invested your time, your energy, and your heart. Together, we've built something that's more than just a building. We've built a community that supports each other, that lifts each other up." He gestured around, drawing attention to the people enjoying the festival, the children engaged in games, the students volunteering, and the local vendors sharing their goods. "Look at what we've created here. Every one of you has played a role in this, from the volunteers who keep things running, to the parents who bring their kids, to the people who simply stop by to share a smile. It's these connections that make this center so special." As he spoke, Jordan felt the weight of everything he had gone through, the challenges, the criticism, the moments of doubt. He remembered the times when he'd felt overwhelmed by opposition from those who didn't believe in his vision, the times he'd questioned whether he'd made the right choices. But each obstacle had only deepened his commitment, reinforcing his belief in the value of community and kindness. "I won't lie and say it's been easy," he admitted, his voice steady. "We faced plenty of challenges along the way. But those challenges taught me something valuable. They taught me that integrity isn't just about standing strong in the good times. It's about holding on to your principles when things get tough. It's about staying true to your purpose, even when others question it." Jordan's eyes scanned the crowd, landing on a group of young students who had recently received scholarships through the center's fund. Their excitement and potential were palpable, and he felt a swell of pride knowing that the center had played a part in their future. "I see our young people here today," he said, nodding toward them, "and it gives me hope for the future. This center was built for you, for your dreams and for your potential. I hope that one day, when you're out there pursuing your goals, you'll remember Mapleton and this community that believes in you. I hope you'll come back and give to others just as you've been given to here." The audience clapped and cheered, their enthusiasm filling the air. Jordan took a breath, letting their support bolster him as he continued. "If there's one thing I've learned from this journey, it's that kindness has a ripple effect. When we act out of compassion, even in small ways, we start something that can grow beyond what we ever imagined. That one moment on the side of the road led to this," he said, gesturing to the bustling festival, the joyful faces, and the lively atmosphere. "But this isn't about me," he added, shaking his head. "It's about all of us who care about each other in this town. It's the collective kindness, the shared vision, and the commitment to lifting each other up that have made this center what it is. And as long as we continue to come together with that same spirit, I have no doubt that Mapleton will keep thriving." He looked out over the crowd, feeling a profound sense of connection to each person there. "Thank you, all of you, for trusting me, for believing in this vision, and for being a part of this journey. My hope is that this center will continue to serve Mapleton for generations to come, that it will stand as a reminder of what we can achieve when we care for one another." As he stepped back from the microphone, the crowd erupted in applause, their faces filled with admiration and appreciation. Jordan felt a wave of emotion, humbled by the gratitude and warmth surrounding him. Friends and neighbors came up to shake his hand, thank him, and share stories of how the center had impacted their lives. Parents expressed gratitude for the safe environment the center provided for their children. Students shared their excitement about college and career aspirations, and seniors told them how volunteering at the center had given them renewed purpose. Later, as the festivities continued, Jordan found a quiet moment to reflect. Standing in the bustling community center, he realized that this place, this celebration, and the people around him were all testaments to the enduring power of kindness and connection. He had never set out to become a hero or a leader, but through his commitment to his values and his town, he had created a legacy that would last. Jordan's journey had transformed him as much as it had transformed Mapleton, and he knew that he would carry these lessons with him for the rest of his life. He had discovered that true change didn't require wealth or influence. It required heart, resilience, and the willingness to take action, no matter how small the initial step. And as he watched the people of Mapleton celebrating together, he knew that his act of kindness had come full circle, leaving a lasting impact on the town he loved.